Since the beginning of time, marriage has been the foundation of society. And one of the secrets of success in marriage is you don't have to marry the perfect person who's just like you.
Yeah, you see, God has created each of us with a unique set of strengths that when celebrated, rather than stifled, can unlock the true potential of your marriage. In strengths-based marriage, we've drawn from more than 50 years of research from the Gallup Institute, combined with over 35 years of experience in marriage counseling, to develop an incredibly exciting resource that can literally revolutionize your relationship and prepare you for a lifetime of passion and intimacy, and we can't wait to share it with you.
That's right. When you learn to recognize and focus on the strengths of your spouse, you'll be able to celebrate what's right about them and value their God-given differences, not resent them. So join us on this journey to explore how implementing a strengths-based marriage can bring you closer together than ever before with your spouse.
Dr. Donald O. Clifton was a forerunner in positive psychology. Through his research, he identified 34 universal strengths that exist within each individual. Working with Gallup, he developed the Strengths Finder assessment, which reveals how our unique order of strengths affect the way we engage with the world around us, influencing our thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Thousands of businesses, teams, and churches have harnessed this strengths-based approach to interacting, resulting in stronger relationships and greater performance. So what happens when you apply these same ideas to your own personal relationships, or even your marriage? On this journey, you will discover how to thrive in your strengths, recognize the positive traits in your partner, and develop your own strengths-based marriage.
If you're like me, the first time I heard about strengths, I was really excited, and I couldn't wait to discover more about this aspect of who God made me to be, the detail, the nuanced detail of what made me tick. And then what followed after that was a sense of, man, I think I'm normal. I actually think I'm normal. I'm not crazy. I do this stuff and it's not weird. So many times there were things that people would tell me like, I don't understand your behavior. And when we don't understand something, we tend to reject it, don't we? I mean, we just do that. If you don't understand something, you just kind of hold it at arm's length until you know what to do with what you've just been given. Well, now imagine if that's true about your spouse. You discover her, you fall in love with her, but then you begin to see elements of who he or she is. And if you don't understand it, you just start to hold it at arm's length because it's just weird. I don't know what to do with that. I felt so affirmed by it. I felt so seen. I felt so just understood when I began to understand my own strengths. I couldn't wait to tell people that were close to me. And I remember going to my brother and saying, you need to discover these things. You need to find out how God wired you. And he said, Allan, I can see how enthusiastic you are. And I love that you are so in tune with this idea. But honestly, I got a lot of stuff going on right now. And I don't know that I have opportunity or energy to put against yet one more thing that I have to sort of master or learn or understand. Why do I need to do that? And that put me on an interesting journey. I really began to look and try to understand why it is that this really matters for us. And there are really two primary reasons why you want to know where your greatest strengths are. And the first is, it's that idea. It is about your greatest contribution. It is highly unlikely that the best of your life, that the best contribution of your life is going to happen without the use of your strengths. It's highly unlikely because God has wired you with so much capacity there. Think about it. If you have a particular strength, like one of mine is strategic, this means that I love to begin with the end in mind. It means that I see things in patterns and I can foretell in a way how they're going to unfold. It just comes naturally to me. I know how to do this, and I'm interested in variety. It kind of causes me to explore new things. Well, this is a natural part of my life, and I've had it from the time I was born, and so this is just kind of the way I think. It's like a lens that colors the way I see. But once I learned that I had that strength, it really made it normal for me. And I then began to see how this could influence others around me. But some of my greatest contributions in life are going to come from the use of this very strength. This idea that I begin with the end in mind, I use this to this day in my role, in my job, in my work, and I use it at home. Do you know, when we pack the car to go on vacation, I get to do the packing, because there is a strategic way in which the suitcases and the loose bags and all the other goodies need to find their way into the back of the car. And I know that because I get to begin with the end in mind. I see how it's all going to fit, or if it's not going to fit. Well, if my spouse doesn't know that that's the case, if she doesn't know that I have this capacity, if she looks at my fussiness about wanting to control this issue of how the bags go in the car, she could label it as a control issue. She could label it as being domineering. She could label it as being too fussy. She could label it a number of different ways. I'm telling you, the greatest contribution of your life is going to come from knowing what your strengths are and doing something purposefully and impressively about it. And the second is, it's about your joy. I mean, literally, there is 2 glands on the inside of your brain that release this enzyme that have this endorphin effect on your life that make you feel fantastic. I mean, the legal kind of fantastic. And it's so repeatable. It can happen over and over and over again. But there's a very, very particular set of circumstances that must be in place in order for you to have access to that kind of joy juice, if you like. And it's when you're using your strengths. The maker of the universe has created us in His image. It's not enough that He has invested these strengths in us so that we could walk around and display them on the earth for the benefit of mankind. But He's also wired it in such a way that when we actually do what He's wired us to do, we get a payoff every time. It's this Pavlovian reward for following in the design that God has made you with. It's ridiculous. I think it's enough that God would give us how He's made. But then when we get this other payoff along the way, it's amazing. Some of what you see happening with me right now is evidence that I'm on this juice right now. It makes me kind of lean in on the conversation. It makes my eyeballs bug out. It makes me do wild and big crazy hands in my gestures. It causes the tone and the pitch of my speech to go in big variations. All of these are indicators that I am experiencing this endorphin rush right now, and it's a marker for you to know that I'm operating in one of my strengths. Now, here's the beauty of this, and this is the piece that floors me about God. He is such a persistent respecter of persons, or not a respecter of persons, that He will give to everybody liberally these strengths, and you get to do what you want with them. If you chose to use your strengths to do destructive things in humanity, you could totally do that. And oh, by the way, when you did it, that endorphin payoff would still happen. You would still get that sense of joy, and so you'd have this twisted sense of affirmation that what you're doing is good in a way. This is wonderful. I love that we can know this. For one, it shows how fantastic God is in His consistent and persistent blessing of us. He gives us His dynamic power and then says, but you get to choose. You get to choose how you use it. And in a marriage context, this changes the game completely. Because I now know when I'm using my strengths to pack the suitcases in the back of the car, and I'm getting this endorphin rush that's making me feel inherently good about what I'm doing, that this is right, this can inform my spouse and help her understand what's going on with me. I'm insisting on doing this, not just because I have a sense that this is the right thing to do, but I'm insisting on it because it's a way for me to feel happy. I actually love it. It makes me feel good. Will you let me pack the bags, please? And so when I become protective over it, it's not because I have to control. I become protective over it because it's access to joy in my brain. This stuff changes everything. When you understand that this is how you're wired, when you understand that this is your motivation, when you understand that your spouse is responding out of this kind of approach, then it changes the way you respond to that. Because now his or her activity isn't intended to just needle you or drive you crazy or make you mad. It's self-serving in a way because I have a sense that what I'm doing is right and I feel God's reward when I'm using it. I just think this kind of clarity changes the game in our understanding in our relationships. Now, we all get these strengths And there's probably 3 or 4 ways that they present themselves. And the first is, you don't know. You have no idea you have this ability. And so it's working in you, because just because you don't know intellectually, just because you haven't made the connection that you have this ability, doesn't mean it's not working. It just means you don't know. So it's still in play, and it's still feeding you the endorphin rush. You're just not aware of it. You're not using it purposefully. It's not doing you any good. You're kind of almost a victim to it. That's definitely no good. Level 2 is, you know you have your strengths and you're using it well. The first one is, I'm not aware of it, it's underused. The second is, I'm using it well and I'm aware that I have it. In this case, I'm aware of my strengths, I'm doing something to improve them, I'm activating them on purpose, and it's good for me and it's good for everybody else. That's a great general rule for a healthy strength. It's good for me, it's good for everybody else. The third one is, it's overused, meaning I'm now so addicted to this endorphin rush, I kind of am jazzed by it so much, I insist on having it all the time, and I kind of don't care how everybody else feels. Now I'm being a jerk about it. I'm just using my strengths to get my joy, and I kind of don't care if it's hurting other people. And the way they respond is they kind of go, whoa, that's too loud. Can you turn that down a little bit? Whew, that's too much. And it's a way of them saying, your strength is too harsh. Can you back off of that just a little bit? So it's overused. And as soon as we know we have that strength, we then know how to find that button on the dashboard, and you can just turn it down a notch. There are times when you want the music up. There are times when you want the music down. It all makes sense. This is normal life. And then the fourth one is kind of a misunderstood way of using your strengths, where you're using it in a way that's destructive to you and destructive to other people. There's kind of a trick or a lie involved here, and you've bought a false sense of what this strength is and what it's meant to do in your life, and you're operating in that confusion, and it's hurtful to you and it's hurtful to everybody else. And we talk about all 4 of those ideas in the book. So I want to leave you with this idea. This is what I want from you and from me and everybody who understands that they're ridiculously powerfully made in God's image. I want you to become a talent scout. Yes, I'm asking for you to understand the talent of your spouse and do some purposeful things to identify, highlight, and amplify the capacity that your spouse has. Line yourself and your speech and your activity up in such a way that supports the capacity or the talent, these strengths that your spouse has, and do all you can to help them be fantastic. You will be partnering with your spouse in a way that deeply affirms them. You'll be aligning yourself with God's investment in that individual, and I promise you it will have miraculously positive effect in your marriage.
TBN wants you to discover the truths and principles found in strengths-based marriage, and you will begin to see your relationship with your spouse in a whole new way. Call or go online to request this powerful collection today with your gift of $120 or more, and as our thank you for supporting TBN, we will rush these incredible resources to you today. Call 800-626-7454 or visit tbn.org/strongmarriage.
If you're just now tuning in, this is Strength-Based Marriage, and now we're going to interview a couple and talk to them about their strengths. Let me introduce them to you.
Today's couple is Allan and Stephanie Kelsey from Dallas, Texas. Allan's top 5 strengths are achiever, strategic, focus, input, and intellection. Stephanie's top 5 strengths are connectedness, relator, belief, individualization, and responsibility.
I'm Jimmy Evans. I'm the co-author of Strengths-Based Marriage, along with my wife of 44 years. Most beautiful woman in the world right here. Karen, it's good to have you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And we're going to talk today to my co-author, Allan, Kelsey, his wife, Stephanie. Good to have you guys here.
Great to be here. Thank you.
And we're going to put you on the spot.
No.
We're going to talk about your strengths.
We're ready.
You've been teaching, well, you taught us about our strengths. And so now we're going to talk about yours. I love talking about strengths because it talks about what's right.
That's right.
It doesn't focus, and you taught me that. You taught us that. But it doesn't focus on the negative. It focuses on the positive. And I want to ask you guys some questions, talking about your strengths.
Yeah.
And that is, how do you feel? How do you feel when you're using your strengths? I mean, how do you know, besides taking the Strength Finder test, how do you know that you're operating in your strengths?
Yeah. Well, my number one strength is achiever. Jimmy, you have this one too, so you know. And what it does for me is provide this wonderful energy to follow through on the things that I want to accomplish. But when I'm acting or when I'm doing, behaving, I get this passive reward from this endorphin rush that feeds me, that helps me feel really good about what I'm doing. It's a balancing feeling, it's a restorative feeling, and it's like this legal buzz that I get that makes me just genuinely feel fantastic. And it comes out when I'm doing stuff.
Yeah, I think for me, when I am operating in my strengths, I feel purposeful. So Relator is one of mine, and I can go and have a very long conversation where I feel like the person that I'm connecting with is just feeling better about life, or maybe it's a little counseling even, but I walk away from that experience feeling like that was purposeful.
Right. And I think a lot of couples, we did this, shame the strength in their spouse.
Yeah.
So they never get to feel good.
Yeah.
You know, you say it's an endorphin rush. You know, when I'm achieving, I just feel fantastic. When Karen's being empathetic, you know, and being relational, because almost all of Karen's strengths are relational. But early in our marriage, you know, I kind of shamed that in Karen because I thought it wasn't normal because it wasn't like me. So respecting each other's strengths means it's a win-win deal.
You know, one of the things I feel like God's been showing me through our strengths is that, especially as women, I've seen where we will get after our husbands for not pursuing God the way that we do. And I feel like God has kind of shown me how our strengths play into that too. And where, again, I'm so people and relationship oriented that I feel like my husband, as a spiritual leader, should be pursuing God the way that I pursue God. But a lot of men in general will pursue God when they're busy with their hands, when they're out in nature, and they'll be having dialogue and connecting with the Lord. And so sometimes I feel like being a talent scout is even seen on a spiritual level, that we can trust who God has put as the head in my family to be connecting and knowing God in His unique way that He does that. So earlier in our marriage, I would really kind of get after Allan for how he looked after people and not feeling like that was as godly as the way that I would look after people. And you can see how that is negative and kind of squashes the other person. If you're not more like me, then you're not as spiritual as I think you should be.
Well, Karen wakes up in the morning and has her quiet time. I wake up in the morning, I have my quiet time, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this, and I do this. And I love to go outside and walk because I love to be out in nature. I feel closer to God. Well, Karen has her time reading the Word and praying, and she'll come and talk to me after she had her quiet time, and her hands will be full of Kleenex, and she's been crying. And I say, "Are you okay?" "Yeah, sure."
Had a wonderful time with
I mean, being with Jesus and crying, and if I'm crying, I'm dying.
Well, they're not sad tears or happy tears.
But the point being, giving each other the freedom to be different and celebrating that. You know, and not judging it. Because so often, one of the couples that we have being a part of strength-based marriage here, they fought like cats and dogs because both of them were using their strengths and both of them hated it because they interpreted it as you're correcting me and you're disrespecting me. When they learned about their strengths, they realized they were both operating in their strengths.
Wow.
But they were both rejecting it because they didn't understand it.
Yeah.
Alan, I want you to tell your lawnmower story.
Yeah, you gonna make me
I tell it better, but okay.
Yeah, I want to hear too what you have to say.
Well, let me
You
start.
go first.
Yeah, okay.
I'll correct.
So we have
Give the
guests
emotional
coming
side.
over on Friday. It's Thursday night, and I'm coming home from work. We're living in Houston. It's hot. I work outside, and I'm already sweaty. And I come into the house, and I notice, or I pull in the yard, I notice the grass needs to be mowed because I know tomorrow I'm going to have a long day. I won't be able to get the grass cut before our guests get in. And so I just figure, I'm just going to park the car, grab that lawnmower, and just whip this out real fast before I get inside. That way, once I'm inside, I'm in the air conditioning, I can cool off, I can clean up, and I don't have to go back outside again. It's finished. So I pull in, I grab the lawnmower, scream out of the driveway, and I start mowing. Well, the sun's already starting to go down-ish. So I'm trying to get it done before the sun goes down, but I didn't get it finished, so I grabbed the flashlight, and I'm out there mowing by moonlight and flashlight. Out of the corner of my eye, I see her.
That's not normal.
No, that's not normal. I'm with you.
It is for achievers.
I see
And
her
we're
in the
achievers.
kitchen, and she's giving me the face, you know, and I'm thinking, oh, my word, how did this happen? In my heart, I'm thinking, this is a good thing. I'm blessing our family. I'm taking care of stuff in the house. This is going to be good for her. She's going to love it. I come inside, and I just meet all kinds of craziness. And it ended up because it was a whole different world that I wasn't understanding. Why don't you tell them about that side of it?
So I'm at home all day with little kids, and I can't wait for my husband to get home to talk to a person.
An adult.
Not little people talk
Yes.
and not diaper changing, but a person. And so I have made dinner. I try to time it when I think he's going to be home. He's not home yet, so I put it in the oven to keep it warm. Like, I am just excited and waiting for my husband to get home. And I hear the garage door open, and I'm starting to get the stuff out of the oven. I'm ready for my husband to come in and eat dinner with me. And the next thing I hear is the lawnmower going.
Yeah, that might be a little trouble.
That's a problem.
Yeah. So instead of being happy to see him, I'm ready to strangle him. And he comes inside, and I was so mad and frustrated that I felt dishonored that I took the time to make this meal and have it hot and ready for him
Yeah.
to get home.
But a part of that, too, is just communication.
Yes.
I mean, how hard would it have been just to pick up the
It
phone?
wouldn't have.
I'm not coming in. I'm going to mow the yard.
Thank you.
We had cell phones back then, so I could have done that.
Was
Yeah.
this before you knew your strengths?
Yes.
It was.
And so when you learned your strengths, what happened? I mean, when you had a great marriage, you had a
Yeah.
great relationship, but those kinds of frustrations
Yeah.
occurred.
Yeah.
What happened when you learned your strengths?
Oh, it changed the way you communicate. I mean, it informs you in a way, so I know what quality and flavor of communication she needs from me for it to make sense. Without it, I go inside and she says to me, you know what? You know what I wish? I wish I was grass. At least I'd get mowed once a week.
That's what I said. But
That's awesome.
I think it also, knowing our strengths helps us to know that we're not like thinking how to get each other.
That's right.
You kind of tend to think like he's doing that on purpose.
Exactly.
He's just trying to make me mad now. And so learning his strengths and how much he's in his head, how much he likes to achieve things and get things done and check the box off, that helped me understand like motive behind what he was doing, where I was assigning motive to him.
Well, I think that's huge.
That's a good way of putting it.
I think that's huge. I think that when you learn your strengths, it gives you a new language.
Yep.
And now, Karen is like you, Stephanie. She's all about relationships. I'm all about getting it done. And you judge that.
Yeah.
When you don't understand it, you just naturally judge it.
Yeah.
And rather than being a talent scout and rather than celebrating your differences, you get into that mode of they're doing that on purpose. Well, we're wired from birth. We don't have a choice. Now, we have a choice in our character,
Right.
in how we use it. But really and truly, it's just how you see the world.
It is.
Isn't that right, Allan?
Yeah, and it doesn't give me an excuse to be a jerk. I mean, I need, like you said, Karen, I need to communicate with her, let her know what's going on. And she's a rational adult. That could easily make sense to her.
Thank you,
and we
honey.
could close that. But that's
We're
what
so glad you're
hindsight does for you. You learn afterwards, you go, oh, well, that could have avoided that whole mess.
Well, it was 5 or 6 years ago that we talked to you for the first time about our strengths. We had a good marriage. We've taught marriage seminars all around the world. It helped me so much to find out what her strengths were.
It helped me to know he had no empathy.
Well, that's my number 34. It's my number 34.
Yeah.
And you can't squeeze it out of me. You can put a shotgun to my head. It ain't going to happen. And so, but for her, it's how she sees the world. But I'm so thankful that I'm married to her because I need that. It's missing in my life. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But what I'm not good at, Karen's fantastic at. What she's not good at, I'm great at. We make a good team.
Good team.
It's like you guys.
Right.
Thank you, Allan, for all your part in writing the book, but also your help as a strength coach and helping people understand their strengths. Stephanie, thank you for putting up with him all these
Yes.
years and making him such a great man of
Been
God.
fun.
Yeah, good to have you guys with us.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, Jim. Karen.
I love to see stories like that. That's why we do what we do, and an example of the impact these powerful resources can have on your marriage.
Yeah, for example, maybe your number one strength is empathy and your spouse's strength is to be restorative. Being aware of that is so important because it will help you to understand how each of you think. Because while someone who is empathetic will feel what others are feeling, a restorative spouse will see a problem and try to fix it. They both want there to be resolution and understanding, peace and growth, but their perspectives are completely opposite and, if misunderstood by each other, can be cause for some really heated discussion.
But trust me, no matter what situation you're in, your marriage can thrive in every area, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And we want to help you experience that today. So request your strengths-based marriage resources with your gift and discover the principles you need to see yourself, your spouse, and your marriage in a new, amazing way.
TBN wants you to discover the truths and principles found in strengths-based marriage, and you will begin to see your relationship with your spouse in a whole new way. Call or go online to request this powerful collection today with your gift of $120 or more, and as our thank you for supporting TBN, we will rush these incredible resources to you today. Call 800-626-7454 or visit tbn.org/strongmarriage.
Well, that's about all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us on this journey of discovery. We're really so excited to share what God has revealed to us about how recognizing your mate's strengths and learning to appreciate them can make an incredible difference in the quality of your relationships.
Be sure to join us next time when we'll look at how opposites attract but then can eventually attack. You'll hear a candid account of my wife's and my painful 3-year struggle and how the revelation about our strengths transformed our marriage with remarkable results. I'm thankful to God that we found a better way to understand and respect our differences to become a stronger team. And I hope you'll be encouraged and inspired by our story. We'll see you next time on Strength-Based Marriage. Goodbye.